It is now 6:34. We're going to bring this meeting of the Lawndale City Council to order. I'm going to ask the city clerk to give the roll call. Madam City Clerk.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman Gorman.
Here.
Councilmember Cuevas.
Here.
Councilmember Suarez.
Here.
Councilmember Kearney.
Here.
Mayor Poland Miles.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, Madam. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Rhonda Hoffman Gorman and Pastor George Magalini from, where's Dabrowski? Dabrowski will lead us in a word of inspiration.
Please stand along with me and put your right hand over your heart and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord, we give you thanks that we have the ability to even open in prayer at this council meeting. And Lord, we have many things to be thankful for. I'm thinking of the people in Florida that we do not have their problems. Lord, we just pray specifically for the governors, the leaders, the people that are affected by Hurricane Ian. We pray that their wisdom would be great in coping with that catastrophe. And all God's people said, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend, for your words of inspiration. Thank you for always coming to grace us with the word. Thank you. Who is it? All righty. Next item on the agenda is the sheriff's report. Let's hear it from the sheriff's department. Let's hear from our, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor
Yes,
and
sir.
members of the City Council. I am here tonight to present the public safety report for September 19, 2022 through October 3rd, 2022. Jose Salgado, Lieutenant at South Los Angeles Sheriff Station. On September 29th at approximately 0830 hours, our Lawndale School Resource Deputy was driving to Lawndale High School, that's Deputy Hilliard, when he observed approximately 6 male juveniles riding the electric bikes on the wrong side of the road against traffic. The juveniles were not wearing helmets or obeying traffic laws. Once Deputy Hilliard arrived at the school, he located the electric bicycles locked up, but no juveniles were around. Deputy Hilliard was unable to identify the juveniles due to their speed when they passed him by on the street. He examined the bicycles and it appeared that they may have been stolen. With the assistance of Traffic Detective Garcia, they were able to get in contact with a company with who they believed that the electric bicycles belonged to and had an employee respond to the school the following day. With the company's assistance, it was confirmed that the bicycles were stolen. The electric bicycles were recovered and returned to the company, and the investigation is still ongoing to determine who was in possession of the stolen electric bicycles. The Sheriff Department has received complaints about vehicles and motorcycles with loud exhaust driving throughout the city. Sergeant Osborne, along with the SAO and mortar units, will continue to monitor and enforce the vehicle code regarding loud exhaust and street racers. This concludes my report, and I would be happy to entertain any questions you may have. And actually, one more follow-up from the previous meeting. Let's see if this will help. For the last 2 weeks, from September 18th to October 1st, there was approximately 260 calls for service, which include emergency calls, priority calls, and routine calls. And there was also an additional 256 observations. The observations are the ones that the deputies, they conduct a traffic stop. That's called an observation. That's considered, the work that they're doing, to track the work they're doing. So around close to 600 and something calls? Close to 600 calls for service for that 2-week period. And I can break it down into what type of calls and so forth, if that's what you will like. Just let me know if that's what you're looking for. Or I'm just looking in general. I'm not looking at one
But
person.
you know
okay.
what my suggestion would be right from the get-go is that we kind of block so that we know what time of day they're coming in. Are they mostly coming in at night? Are they coming in the middle of the day? Are they coming
Right.
in? I would like to know that type of
Okay.
information.
Okay, I'll
only
see if
because-
my analyst can do that.
Yeah, I don't know,
and-
but that's what I would be looking for.
And then as far as the types of calls, then it breaks down into, obviously, we could start with the murders, the rapes, robberies, assaults,
If-
stolen
I
vehicles.
think Cuevas would put that.
Yeah,
ask for that.
if we
Right.
could just get the major number, like, let's
So
say.
256 plus the
well,
260, or
Let's say
just one
100
total?
of them were the top
Okay.
4 or 5 calls, what they were, that
Got
would
it.
be good.
Like the top 5 calls?
Yeah,
Okay, sounds good.
or recents for the calls, not the calls.
Perfect, perfect. Okay,
On this side? Okay, one more comment.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I just would like for you to extend our gratitude to the school officer, Hilliard, in the work. I brought that issue up last council meeting about the e-bikes because of a group of seniors that are scared to come out of their house over that type of riding in my neighborhood. And that was a really positive report that we
Yes.
were able to get those 6 of them off the
I sure
street.
will. I will
So
extend that to them.
I would like him to know that we appreciate that work and appreciate that the sheriffs heard us at our last council meeting, so thank
Absolutely.
you.
And after that council meeting, I talked to Sergeant Osborne, and resource deputies at the schools will keep an eye on that. And again, we don't want to target the juveniles that are going to and from school, as long as they obey the rules of the road, you know, and don't cause any traffic hazards for everyone else. I think we're okay, but in this case, the information was that the bicycles were stolen. So got rid of 6 bicycles right away. Maybe that's the one that was causing most of the problems in that area.
I did just
Right.
speak to one of our principals in a Lawndale school, and because it was her school that I went to first, because it's the junior high on my side of the boulevard. And I had gone to her first, and she thought she knew probably who the kids were, but she thought that they had graduated her school and were probably in the high school district. And so I dropped that conversation. Just so happened, her and I were on the phone again today, and she mentioned to me that, yes, the e-bikes are still even coming on her campus. And sadly to say, even though that she mentions it in her parent newsletter every week that goes out,
Okay.
the kids are still coming without helmets on. And that's a big concern from the principal,
Okay.
is the lack of helmets on either a regular bike or a motorized bike.
Right. Okay, and now I'll extend to Deputy Hilliard and Detective Garcia.
Thank
And we'll
you.
keep looking out for the e-bikes and any other types of, traffic violations during the school hours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you for that report.
Okay.
Thank you,
you.
Lieutenant.
Have a good night.
Let's hear from our LA County Fire Platoon Captain.
Good
Platoon
evening,
Chief.
Mayor Poland Miles, council members. My name is Ramon Valdoria, Battalion Chief for LA County Fire Department. I'm here to talk about the statistics for the month of September for the city of Lawndale. 169 calls went out that required fire department aid. 137 of those calls require medical assistance. 29 were public assists or good intent calls. We did have 3 fire calls, 2 outside rubbish fires that were along the freeway, and 1 cooking fire that was contained to the cooking container. So no property loss or no displacements for the month of September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move right along. We're now on oral communications on our agenda. This is where you have the opportunity to speak to this body on items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to do so at this time, we ask that you line up by the flag. When it becomes your turn, if you would come to the podium, if you would start with your name first. And at about 2.5 minutes, the amber light will come on and give you the prompt you to wrap things up. Let's have our first speaker. Yes, sir.
Gary Adams again, speaking multiple times on the RJ situation, which is still far from being resolved. It is my understanding, belief, and contention that RJ has continuously operated illegally in violation of multiple city ordinances, including as of today. There's a massive amount of storage of building materials on the R3 lot facing Mansell, which has been there for over a month. Now, some of their illegal activities include absolutely no permits on record for the removal, destruction of at least 2 residences, one facing Gravilla and one facing Mansell. Now, I would contend under state law that they should be required to replace those residences since they were illegally removed. 2, they covered these 2 lots with over 13,000 square feet of concrete, which I consider a major development. Again, no permit, no landscaping of any kind. Again, this should be rectified. Additionally, they have gates that are the entire width of these residential lots in violation of ordinance, and they have driveways that are way in excess of the ordinances concerning driveways for residential lots. Now, there was multiple attempts by the previous owner, Deford, to change the R2 zoned lots, both lots were zoned R2 at that time, to commercial. This failed miserably multiple times, but then something sneaky happened, and there's no records. They've disappeared, but the R2 lot facing Gravilla, I was told, is now R2P, which that zoning did not exist at the time. And the R2 lot facing Mansell was rezoned to R3. Again, no permits. It's all verifiable. City manager can tell you this. Jared can tell you this. I've asked repeatedly. I've got the answer. There was no permits for any of this. Now, one of the things that's happening, and this is a major problem, is that the commercial activity is having these semi-tractor trailer rigs and other commercial traffic crosses the residential lots, both of them, primarily now the R3 lot, and I contend that it was never, ever the intention of residential zoning to have commercial traffic crossing the residential property. So that, I think, should be addressed as well. Now, recently, at the light rail expansion open house, the city manager asked me if I was willing to speak to RJ's. I said, sure, I've tried to talk to him before. A couple weeks went by, and I got a message from Jared that he told me that Sean told her to tell me, I was out of town at the time, that they refused to meet on any subjects with me.
All right, go ahead and wrap it up for me.
All right, at any rate, it was committed by the city that their business license would be revoked if they did not come into complete compliance. They have never been in complete compliance, and recently they were supposed to correct destroyed concrete, and it still has not been corrected.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening,
Good
Dina,
evening.
Lawndale residents. I wanted to just go over really quick that, we had that hit and run, and unfortunately, the young man was killed. And the sheriff's report was awesome last time about how they tracked down that truck, but it took a while. Unfortunately, what I think you guys should consider is license plate readers at different intersections. All our surrounding cities have them. They come in handy. Stolen vehicles, other crimes, this kind of crime, they had to do a lot of just old-fashioned legwork. It took so long. That family could have had a quicker answer to that vehicle, maybe the registered owner or what have you. It makes a difference. You guys took away, 2 crossing guards away from us because of finances and what have you? Let's look into license plate readers. It's another safety thing for Lawndale to have. Also, again, I'm just going to bring up the tinted windows on cars. I don't like those either. It makes another safety issue for officers when they have to stop a car with fully tinted windows coming up on a car. It's a safety thing. It's another vehicle code violation. I know you think it's minor, but it's important. It's their safety too. And also, I wanted to ask about if you put stuff on your website for the latest scams that are going on for, say, seniors or just anybody in general, falling for the simplest things. When people come knock on the door and say, can I test your your tap water, that when trying to get in your house is the whole point or whatever. There's so many simple scams out there that are on, again, I'm going to quote Nextdoor, but it's important to know. At least people put stuff out there so the rest of the communities can know, hey, this happened to my dad, my mom, happened to me. It's very important to get the latest scams. I don't know if you guys have that on your website or find out, or even the sheriffs to, you know, if they learn of something new scam going around to mention it. Also, I know Halloween is coming up. Very important. I wish more parents would talk to their kids about fentanyl and, you know, candy and everything, laced, you know, pills and overdosing and everything. It's another thing that's so important right now. Fentanyl, big deal out there right now. Also, what, let's see, fentanyl and overdosing, and there was something else, but I can't think of it right now, but darn it. But I just want you guys to know it's very important. Let's help, you know, the community safety-wise also with the sheriffs and everything and work together. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Sorry. I'm going to try to do this with the mask on. I had 3 years, no COVID. So I'm here to ask that the city of Lawndale stop issuing parking citations for safe and legal driving. I'm sorry, my name is Morrison Lucas.
And speak right in there for
Yep.
I was losing something.
Thank you. By now, you've all been included on correspondence that I've been having between myself and the city regarding parking enforcement on 153rd Place in front of Jane Addams Middle School. I specifically note the morning of September 20th when Lawndale was systemically issuing citations to every vehicle entering the Jane Addams parking lot to drop off their student. The infraction noted this time was for parking on the sidewalk. I think this is inappropriate and it's not consistent with the California Vehicle Code. It does not consistent with the definition of parking, either legally or informally. The city's usual response, which I received again this morning on the phone, is that drivers are required to drive around the block if they cannot cleanly enter the JAMS parking lot. This is not consistent with the law, and it would make traffic markedly worse, forcing more cars to go through the stop sign at the intersection of 153rd and Fermona, which is where the actual traffic bottleneck is. This is not the first time the city has engaged in this type of enforcement for imagined violations of the vehicle code. This is a pattern that goes back as far as any parent at JAMS can remember. And with that in mind, I guess I have 3 requests of the city council, please. First, can we stop issuing citations when drivers are driving both legally and safely? 2, can you please investigate some prior abuses of citation issuance? You can start with the morning of September 20th. Again, every car entering the JAMS parking lot was being cited for, again, parking on the sidewalk. And then please work with the schools to make a diagram of how the parents can drop their students off at JAMS without getting a risk of citation. All we want to do is drop our kids off at school safely and consistently. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Samuel Cruz up here. So I just wanted to second the license plate scanner. We were talking to officer the last time we were here at the city council meeting, and they did mention that it did take 2 people off of the streets while they're looking for this. So as you guys know, as I spoke last time, we have a lot of graffiti, we have a lot of gang activity going on, and the safety of the community is very important. When he said it took 2 people off the field, then if we could invest in the scanners, it would save a lot of time. Second thing, I wanted to see if it's something that we could bring up to the community where we could get like some for the residents to decorate. I wanted to see if there's some way like we could set up like juniors or some sort of where people volunteer to help the elderly start decorating. I just want to see like how about going about that, because there's a lot of people that have the decorations but could no longer decorate, and this would be a free service for any people volunteering. I just want to see if that's some way that we could get that going, because it would be really nice to have a lot of trick-or-treaters around, because a lot of people go outsource, go to Redondo and a lot of the beach cities during this time. It would be nice to bring it back to our city. And then the other thing is just making sure that everyone registers to vote, everyone comes out and vote coming this November, and I hope to see everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're gonna close public comment this time. We're gonna bring it to the diocese for any comments from the council. Let's start with,
Okay, I just want to thank the four gentlemen, three gentlemen and young lady that spoke tonight. Okay, I had to count. On Mr. Lucas, I, 2 years ago, talked to the principal then at Jane Addams and gave them an idea how to curb the parking citations. You have 3 entrances at school. On the Manziel side, you could open 153rd, 6th grade could be allowed off there. On the Fremona side, there's a school parking that has dual gates. 7th grade could be there. And on the Marine side, 8th grade, it fell on deaf ears. It's the same thing with Roger Anderson. I brought the same thing up. And I'm sorry about your parking citations. I had nothing to do with it, so I'll pass it on to my colleague to my right.
Councilwoman Suarez.
Thank you to everybody that came out and spoke tonight. A few of these topics, ongoing investigations, so we're limited in what we can talk about on the dais. And then I did want to go over, thank you, Dina, for your list. There are some things that, I think that our staff can take a look at with regards to, because with license plate readers, there's a whole nother things that you have to consider, with regards to, just looking at the overall picture of what that entails. But I do think it's stuff that we can look at. The scams going on, I don't think that would be an issue for our staff to take into account. I would just suggest that you not limit it to Nextdoor, but maybe all the social media accounts. From what I understand, Facebook probably has the biggest audience for the most part. And then with regards to the parking enforcement, it's a topic that comes up quite regularly, and I do think it'd be I think it would be helpful if the district would be willing to meet with us, just to kind of go over. I know I don't want to get into the situation where we start saying, the district versus us. I think it's something that it does involve both of us, since we're the ones that have the enforcement going on, and I think we do need to coordinate with them. And so if there's a subcommittee that we could create, I think that would be helpful, just so that we can understand, what their needs are, what our needs are, and hopefully make for better compliance with regards to residents and parents. And then, with that, I'll just pass it along and let the rest of my colleagues speak. But thank you again to everybody that came out and spoke.
Councilwoman Cuevas.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I have a question for the Sheriff Department regarding tinted windows. I thought those were illegal. So if we could keep an eye on those type of cars and maybe cite them if they're parked on the street and you guys can't see them, Also, I would like to see something on our website that talks about the Halloween candies, safety of Halloween candies. Maybe, I know Mike right now, it's a little short-staffed, but maybe Mike could put a little flyer during our Halloween event that talks about safety. That would be nice to give out with while the kids are walking through the little pathway or haunted house, whatever we're doing this year. And I do agree that the school district and city council should sit down and discuss the drop-off of our kids. Not only Lawndale School District, but also Centinela Valley. That's another big issue, especially on Englewood and Marine, and also Englewood and El Segundo. Kids are crossing in the middle of the street. They're not paying attention. They're riding their skateboards or whatever, bicycles. And we all should sit down and discuss a procedure on what we could do to better the traffic, avoiding tickets, hopefully, and also the safety of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Pro Tem Hoffman-Gorman.
I would also like to thank the 4 individuals that spoke. Dina, thank you for bringing up the fentanyl. That is a really scary thing, the reports that we're seeing of it being colorful and childlike candy looking. So that was a really useful thing to bring up tonight, so thank you. Also, your license plate readers, I hadn't even considered that, and that is something now that you've got me on my radar that I'm going, maybe we better have a conversation about that. So I don't know what the cost would be to start doing that, and I don't know from a legal aspect what we are opening up for the city, so I think that there's a whole conversation that maybe we better sit down and have. Maybe that is something we might want to consider. Yes. Mr. Lucas, so today I did a little research myself on jams and what's going on over at Jane Addams Middle School. I, for one, am a previous parent from that school. My kids are 26 and 27 right now, or 25 and 27, so I don't even know how old they are, but it's many years ago when Miss Mowad was a teacher. They both were in her class at one point. And so I sat down and had a conversation with her, and what I learned today is that just as of September, the drop-off and pickup has changed gates. That it was previously next to the attendance office, but now they have moved it to the other opening that is down and by the cafeteria. She also mentioned that she has 2 employees out in front of the school and in the morning, starting at 7:45. One goes in at 8:15, the other goes in at 8:30. At the end of the day, that she's got coverage out there for only 30 minutes at pickup time. And she says that is due to the desire to get the kids off of the school property as soon as possible, for them not to linger on school property. I suggested that, like Pat, because I had remembered that that was one of the things that we had suggested about the 3 different gates, and knowing that that had not really been considered, I even offered another couple of suggestions. My suggestions were, number 1, in her weekly newsletter, that maybe she put something in there, because I know one of the things that was a problem for me as a parent, what I never understood, are these parents that have the kids' backpack and jacket and all of this stuff that they have to carry into school in the trunk, which caused the kid to have to get out of the car, walk around to the trunk, then wait for somebody to hit the button. Again, all taking time. Has she mentioned anything in her meetings? Parents, be prepared. Have your kid with their backpack, with their jacket, jump out of the car and go to try to speed up. She tells me that there's 760 kids currently on that campus. So my next suggestion is if we can't open up the different gates, 6th graders start at this time, 7th graders start at that time, 8th, and her initial response was, no, that would mess up the bells. We have to, unfortunately, patrol out there in front of the school. That's just a fact that exists. I know, and I still drive through there during times when school is coming in and going out. It's not safe. It's not safe when suddenly a parent decides their child's pickup is more important than me, and they zoom on the other side of the street and cut people off. It's a very unsafe situation. And we get residential complaints that we shouldn't have to. These are, in this particular case, they're 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Maybe we need parent volunteers that are out there help policing. I will turn my question now over to Mr. Reyes, because the question that I do have, and I'm not clear, is the principal states that these violations are occurring in the loop. Now, when I was dropping off, the loop was on the Mansell side when we drove into what is known as the parking lot and had to exit out the same driveway. But now it sounds like the loop has something to do with the front, and I don't understand how it could be a loop when there's no return, there's no closing of the loop. And so that is my one question, is where's this loop? And number two, I wanted you to answer my question as to if the violations are happening on the sidewalk, then it is our jurisdiction and not on their property. Is that correct?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman Gorman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Good evening, members of the City Council. Mr. Morrison and I, Mr. Lucas and I did have a good conversation this morning about this incident, and we are going to speak to staff and re-examine it. The citation was issued for parked or stopped on a sidewalk. Sidewalk would still fall under our regulations. Children are walking back and forth to school. Pedestrians, people in wheelchairs with strollers, they can't access the other side of the street without entering the street if there's a vehicle in the sidewalk. So that is something that we would regulate. There are citations even written on private property for disabled parking violations or for fire lane violations, but primarily everything else we write is on city streets. As far as the loop, I've never heard it called that, but I have spoke with Principal Watt a number of times about different options that we can do, including having parent volunteers to encourage parents to, once they pull into the 53rd entrance, to move all the way to the end of the loop, or the end of the turn-in, so that other cars aren't queuing up behind them. One of the challenges with cars queuing up to go into the turn-in 153rd is that parents entering from Mansell trying to exit onto 153rd are then blocked and can't exit. And those parents are asking for enforcement because they can't get to work on time because there's a line of cars queued up preventing them. And my understanding in studying the history of 153rd is that part of the reason that law was changed more than a decade ago was because it was creating a lot of hazards and dangers on having
Yes.
two-way traffic on 153rd. So in having cars continually move forward, that's what we're trying to prevent. We do encourage parents to circle the block if they can't find a spot, but it would help to have parent volunteers encouraging parents to move their vehicle all the way to the end of the turn-in rather than pull into the first stop and then obstruct traffic behind. There is room for about 8 cars parked in that turn-in off 153rd. So if everyone pulled in to the very end rather than stop right where the entrance is to the school, you'd have room for 8 cars and you wouldn't have backup on 153rd leading to Mansell. So these are options that we'll certainly consider. I did have a good conversation with Mr. Lucas this morning, and we'll certainly talk about other options and also a number of tickets that were written that day, if any. We take pictures of all the citations so we can verify the violation. We certainly don't take pictures of every car. That wouldn't serve any purpose. So, but these things were all discussed, and we'll certainly work with the schools to come up with those ideas as well.
Thank you for the information. So, Mr. Lucas, to you, as you can see, it is an ongoing problem, and it's one that I think that I would support that the school district and the city maybe sit down and take a harder look. But as for stopping altogether any writing of tickets, I don't think that that would be appropriate because it would only be worse, unfortunately. Correct. Mr. Cruz, my suggestion, as soon as you said about decorating, and thank you for the input too, is on the license plate readers, but on the decorating of homes and volunteerism, my thought is, you know, we have a whole bunch of high school kids that are in need of community service hours. Maybe you could contact some of our local high schools or suggest that that be a program in which maybe they could pick up a couple of hours, and maybe that could be where you could get some volunteerism to do such a thing. It's a really nice idea, but I don't know if it's something that we could manage here as far as the council. I don't know if Park and Rec could help you, or maybe it's part of, under the YAC program might be able to help you, but if you would encourage something like that where they could get some, because when they graduate, they have to have a certain number of volunteer hours. And let me tell you, when they get to be about juniors and they see that they don't have enough hours, they're looking for any place that they can get them. And especially within walking distance, because sometimes they're, you know, like in Santa Monica, and the kid says, but I don't know how to get there. If it's here in his own city, he's going to more than likely come and help. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight as well and those who spoke tonight. Mr. Lucas, thank you for bringing this to our attention. This is an ongoing issue that we continue to have to manage and make different modifications to. I do take the point of Council Member Pat Kearney that we will continue to work with the school district. We do have a school district council subcommittee that we meet from time to time to discuss issues of mutual concern. And this certainly is one of them, to see how we can get this abated. We are looking for cooperations, as we always are looking for cooperations with our partners, the school district, because this rests with, chiefly with the school district, on school district property. Students are under the jurisdiction of the school districts until a certain time of the day. Certainly, as they are released from school, they're still under the jurisdiction of the school district, and certainly the circulation for the drop-off and things of that nature, those are under the jurisdiction as well of the school district. So it's our job to make sure that everyone is safe in terms of parking and traffic flow, but it's the school district's job to decide which fence or gate they're going to let out and when the bell is going to ring and whether the bell is confused or not. But we will certainly work with the school district to make sure that everyone is safe and that there's no parking tickets that's just issued. Because sometimes you can have parking tickets that's inadvertently where you just get caught up, where you didn't intend on not, complying with the law, but because you're in that frenzy of parents. Trust me, I had to pay for a few of those tickets myself, not for me, but for another member of the household. Just say that, right? Used to get these tickets, right? So hopefully this year to be a little better because now our student is in high school, so we got a few of those as well. But we'll continue to work on that. Mr. Adams, thank you for continue to keep us informed on what's going on at RJ's. We'll continue to work with them to get those issues rectified as well. Dana, I want to thank you for, the fentanyl. That's a great point. And this is really, really discouraging in terms of this drug is actually mentioned in these rap lyrics and everything, it's like this is like kind of glorifying, this drug. And this is a terrible drug. I mean, from what I understand, you can be exposed to this one time and you're a victim. So thank you for bringing that up. It's very important for this holiday season as we approach Halloween, and the parents should be extra concerned or careful because they may not know about this drug. I mean, I just found out about it maybe about a year ago. Also on the license plate readers, I've had a conversation actually, I guess it was like a month ago with the lieutenant. He actually brought up the notion of having license plates on readers. So that's something we have to take a look at. There are some other considerations. Yes, the license plate readers obviously read license plates. But from what I understand, they also read other things other than license plates. And so there are some civil liberties considerations as well that we have to at least take a look at, in addition to whatever cost associated with it is concerned. But we definitely will give it its fair share in terms of considering it. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And with that, I think that's all I have. Yep, that's all I have. And I also agree with the gentleman who talked about the declaration as we do during the holidays, during Christmas. I can't say Christmas, right? That was a little joke. Somebody said yesterday I was in a conversation and said, oh, you can't say Christmas. Anyway, so make sure that people have those opportunities to decorate during Halloween. Okay, with that, I will close public comments, and I'll close the comments from the council, and we'll continue our agenda. All right, we're now on the consent calendar. Consent calendar is item F, items 1 through 3. What is the pleasure of this body on the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been made by, she has a new hairstyle, so in case you guys haven't noticed, Councilwoman Suarez has made the motion and seconded by Councilman Pat Kearney. Any discussion on the motion?
I just combed it.
Okay, there we go. Well, I took my reserve glasses off so I can see. All right, will the council please vote?
For the consent calendar, the motion passes
Thank you, madam.
unanimously.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. That would be the consent calendar. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearing regarding recommendation of increasing to bail amount, probably the bail amount of handbills distribution by commercial businesses and approved by said resolutions. Okay. With that, it is now, let's have a staff report first. We haven't had a public hearing in a while. Let's have the staff report first.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding the recommendation to increase bail amounts of handbill distribution. As many of this council are aware, businesses use handbills and postings as an inexpensive means to advertise their goods and services to a large number of people. Businesses will sometimes employ day laborers to take large amounts of handbills, business cards, flyers, and other printed ads and place them in neighborhoods on vehicle windshields, in mailboxes, and on door handles with the hope of enticing new customers. Unfortunately, a vast amount of these handbills, flyers, and printed ads end up in the trash, or in many cases they are tossed into gutters, left on sidewalks, or discarded on city streets, creating a mess that is left for Lawndale stakeholders to clean up and pay for. Currently, the distribution of handbills and flyers is only permitted by special permit, and failure to obtain a city permit results in an administrative citation. However, in keeping with our enforcement protocol, a business would only be given a citation after 3 notice of violation letters have first been written. For smaller business or even larger ones, it is simply smart business to continue to operate without a permit, as the penalty amounts for distributing handbills is so low. Current bail amounts are $100 for the first offense, $250 for the next, and $500 for the third. Of course, these bail amounts only begin after 3 NOVs have been issued to the business. For this reason, staff is proposing that bail amounts for the distribution of handbills for commercial businesses be increased to begin at $500 for the first offense, $750 for the second offense, and $1,000 for the third. Staff feels that this will be substantial enough cost that businesses that are engaging in this practice will think twice before placing unpermitted advertising on private property within the city of Lawndale. Staff recommends that the council approve resolution number CC 2209-47, amending the city fine schedule and the introduction of this first reading of ordinance number 1191-12, amending the municipal code penalties for handbill distribution. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that staff report. Are there any points of clarifications, anything to that nature before we open up the public hearing?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to understand the distinction because the actual resolution for the original says any commercial or non-commercial handbill or unsolicited newspaper. And so I'm trying to understand if that's just targeted to businesses, or say, for example, there's a nonprofit that wants to, hand out flyers, knock on doors, or something like that nature. So I'm trying to understand the distinction. And
of course. So just to clarify that, when we're saying commercial or non-commercial, we're primarily talking about business for profit. So if there's a charitable organization that's passing out handbills, we could certainly warn them and let them know in the future, please try to get a permit. That wouldn't be something that they would have difficulty obtaining. There is always discretion in any citation that we issue. Also, we want to stress this would be to the business, not to the individual laborer who's passing out. We're not looking to cite someone who's just been hired and looking to pass things out. We're not targeting that individual. We're targeting the business so that the business knows that they can't permit this. A number of these businesses do not operate in Lawndale. They're not businesses that we can revoke a business license on. They operate out of neighboring cities. And so for that reason, we want to be able to hit the business hard, whereas now it's a very soft hit when we hit them.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Are we still giving them 3 prior notices, or are we just starting to cite them without notice?
In keeping with our protocols, we still would be giving the notices. That is a topic that we could discuss further. I would add that this would kind of put us in a different, we would be sort of alone on this. Now that other cities aren't putting bail amounts as high, but I would say that without any frame of reference to compare this to, I would use the fireworks plan that we initiated 2 years ago. Sites were starting at $1,000 with no warning other than the postings letting people know that these would be issued. The list of everyone who got a fireworks citation in year 1 was given to our deputies in year 2. Not a single homeowner who lit a firework and got a citation lit another firework in the following year. So in that way, it is a fairly good deterrent. Of course, that's individuals, not businesses, but we're hoping the larger amount will discourage handbills. I mean, I've got some just here that I've got today. At the last meeting, Dina gave me some that she received. So our hope is that this will discourage this sort of behavior in our city. Thank you.
Okay, any other points of clarifications? Hearing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing. It's now 7:19. The public hearing is now open. Are there any willing to provide any testimony in this manner? If so, please come forward at this time. You can approach the podium if you would give us your name. We'll wait on you. Right. Right.
Hi, Dina again. Just another thing, it's just like he was saying, they just end up in the street, in the gutter, whatever. I haven't met any person that said, hey, did you go to that nail salon you got on your card? Did you use that junk dealer dude that wants your car for junk? No, never. They're such a hassle. And they put them, they put them where people just walk up to their car and then, whoop, they throw them right down on the street to get them off their car. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide any testimony in this matter? Okay, seeing none, it is 7:20. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:20. Public hearing is closed. Let's bring it to the diocese for any comments from the council.
If there's no comments, I make a motion to go to
Yeah,
staff.
I do. I have a
Okay,
comment, but
okay.
let's see if anyone else has a comment. Anyone have- yeah. I just want to just make sure that, I know these can be annoying. There's, when I come out of my house, there's an insurance carrier with the V, and there's an insurance carrier with the M, start with M. And if I miss those, then they want to buy my junk car, although I don't consider my car junk. So I don't I don't know what they're trying to say. We can buy your junk car, right? Right. And they are annoying, but I want to make sure that it's a problem. Is it a problem that we just haven't been enforcing, or we have been enforcing and it continues to be a problem, which will then necessitate a higher bail amount? How often do we actually enforce? When I say enforce, because you're enforced by, of course, giving a fine, right? Given, if they continue. I have no information on how often that happens or whatever to know if could it be rectified by simply
Robert, could I?
finding them?
Wait, Michael, I'll go with it. I'll take this one. Every 2 weeks, I bring stuff off the ground. As we were walking last night, Robert, I found the new one. I gave that to Mike, and then the same guy wanted to buy your junk car last night. And then we have the V and the M, and there's another one. It's every 2 weeks. I can clockwork on every Saturday and Sunday, every 2 weeks. They're down my street. They were over by 160th, 159th on the east side of last night. So yes, it is a problem, and you'll find them in the streets.
Yeah, so let me make sure I refine my question. So
Okay.
the question is not whether it's a problem, because I do agree that it is a problem. My question is more or less, have we done our due diligence in enforcement so that we can rectify the problem rather than increasing the fines? Because what could happen if we did our enforcement right and it continues, then that may suggest, that the fines need to increase. But if we haven't done our due diligence in enforcement, that could suggest that all you're going to do is increase the fines, but yet you're still going to get, the litter. And I want to make sure that we're not just increasing fines just because it seems like it suggests that it will abate the problem when I have no information, on it to see even where we are on it. Let's hear from Councilwoman.
No, you reminded me, that was gonna be my question, is to date, how many have we actually issued? I know we've changed the process for the administrative citations, so we might not have that data, but I always like to look and see I think Robert's correct, are we, is it non-enforcement related, or is it, just not, people just disregarding completely?
Good evening. Thank you, council member. So to answer that question, the process still is the process that we have in play for all admin sites, 3 notices before an actual citable amount, and the citable amount is $100. So if you are a business and you can have basically 6 weeks of distributing these handbills before you're going to get a $100 site, if you manage to get 1 customer out of it, you already made a profit. So. So due diligence has been done. There hasn't been many sites written because, again, we have to give that time frame, which we would do to a homeowner or business owner if in violating admin sites within the city. So we have to do the same for businesses outside of the city. I'm not sure how we would answer that question necessarily, though. I mean, we are doing our regular reporting and notifying before sites are issued. But because we have to do that much, there's only a handful of sites so far issued. One of the other challenges too, I did point out to Councilman Kearney, some of these businesses knowingly don't put addresses on, possibly because they operate out of home-based businesses or things like that. So if we just have a phone number and a name, there's not that much we can do. So I don't want to promise that this will suddenly rectify all the problems, but we do think it would be a step towards a better solution.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have repeat offenders? Like,
We have many vendors.
Okay.
Yes, the V and the M and some of those insurance companies regularly.
Do you mean repeat offenders that have been fined and they just simply absorb it as the cost of doing business?
Correct.
We know the repeat offender.
Right. So, and there are a number of repeat offenders. Some of the repeat offenders, though, as I said, if they don't have an address and they don't want to give us an address, there's little we can do. We can't really track them down based on a phone number. So we have to kind of just, there's not much, there's no address we can send a violation notice to or a citation to. So it is primarily the larger companies that are established and have multiple brick and mortar businesses. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are with that.
But Mr. Mayor and Council, we are doing our due diligence. I think the question was, are we enforcing? And the answer is, my understanding from Mr. Reyes and staff, they do turn these over when they can identify. They take them through the process, and if necessary, they will be fined. But as Mr. Reyes has pointed out, the fine is so little now that it's not cost prohibitive for them to continue with the practice. So that's why we're bringing it forward for you to reconsider for raising the fines.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, I did have one more question. The fines that we are, if they're in violation, they pay the fine. Is that going to the general fund, or where does this money, is it a special fund for these fines, or?
My understanding is it would just go the same as all administrative fines and parking citations, just goes into the general fund.
So that's 1,000 for the 3rd violation, right? Well, if you have a violation, that's a well, 500, 750, and 1,000, and you can't track down the perpetrator, then increasing it is not gonna, make you.
That's correct. If we don't have workable information, there's not much we could do. We could try to disguise ourselves and pretend to be a customer. That sometimes works. If we pretend like we want to sell our junk car, for instance, and we're able to meet the person. Of course, in some of those instances, since they're operating out of their home, they don't want to do business at their home. They come to you, so that's sort of problematic as well. But if we can determine a location and a business owner, then we try to we act accordingly.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion on this item?
If not, I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
And this one's actually going to require 2 motions. Just so you know, I just.
Introduce and approve.
Yeah, I just lost it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to require 2 separate motions.
Right, so we just need 2 different votes tonight because in one case we're introducing an ordinance And in the second case, we're approving a resolution amending the fine schedule. So we need a separate vote on the ordinance and on the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for, let's do the first one.
I'll make a motion.
That would be for the.
On the first one?
The ordinance.
I'll second it.
So motion's been made by Kearney and seconded by Hoffman Gorman. For the reading of the ordinance, I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 1191-22, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lawndale, California, amending Section 8.90.040 violations of Chapter 8.90 unlawful distribution of handbills of Title 8 Health and Safety of the Lawndale Municipal Code to increase the penalties for violations of the chapter. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Will the council please vote on the motion?
For item number 4, the motion on the ordinance, the motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you, madam. Okay, now I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll motion to approve resolution CC 2209-047.
Okay, the motion's been made by Corbett that
second
we
it.
approve the resolutions and
I'll
seconded by Kearney. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, will the council please vote?
For item number 4, the motion on the resolution, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, next item under administration is, okay, update at the request of the city council for additional information regarding e-bikes and scooters.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding e-bikes and electric scooters. At the last City Council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman Gorman expressed concerns referred to her by residents and other members of the community regarding electric bikes and motorized scooters, specifically that teenagers and young adults are traveling in large groups on electric bikes in violation of state and city regulations, darting quickly in and out between parked cars and on sidewalks where they are difficult to see. Mayor Pro Tem stated that many community members were worried that these teenagers were disregarding their personal safety and the safe operation of these types of vehicles within the City of Lawndale. Municipal staff provides twice daily outreach services to the homeless, and we, during last week's patrol, while patrolling in Grevilla, heading southbound approaching Marine, a staff member and myself observed 6 teenagers on electric bikes traveling at excessive speeds on both the sidewalks and on Grevilla Avenue. None of the teenagers were wearing helmets or maneuvering safely while on city streets, and at one point we observed one of the e-bike riders moving into the lane of an oncoming northbound vehicle, only to move back into the southbound lane at the last second and then proceed westbound on Manhattan Beach Boulevard out of view. The behavior of all these teenagers was reckless and dangerous, and had any of them fallen off their e-bikes, it likely would have resulted in serious injury to the rider. I passed this information along to LASD Sergeant Ricky Osborne, who in turn notified the SAO team and patrol deputies to be mindful of teenagers engaging in this behavior and to issue citations for any California Vehicle Code violations, including failure to wear a helmet and also for operating these electronic bikes on sidewalks. LASD will continue to be vigilant while patrolling Lawndale streets and will issue citations to anyone operating an e-bike or electric scooter without observing all applicable laws governing their use. Staff recommends we record and file this, and I can answer any questions.
Say that last part over, staff.
The staff recommends that we receive and file this.
Okay, great. I'm sorry.
I did say it wrong. Sorry about this.
Okay. Any discussion on 5? Yeah, we're receiving Fowler's report. I would encourage them to do warnings, because if you're a parent, you may not know that you're, and it's at the discretion, of course, of the officers. Officers give warnings all the time, rather than citations. Sometimes
That's correct. These would all be enforceable only by law enforcement. These would not fall under city staff. We would not be able to issue for this.
Yeah, what I'm saying, at their discretion, depending on what the issue is, sometimes, these are kids. Yeah, we want to make sure that they're aware that they need to have their helmet on and be safe and all that kind of stuff. But at their discretion, which kind of goes without saying, because most citations at the discretion of officers. But I just thought I would put that out there. Okay, so we will receive and file that item. Next item is update on the enforcement of noise violations. Modified vehicles exhaust systems.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding noise violations from modified vehicle mufflers. At our last City Council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman Gorman stated that she had received numerous complaints from community members about excessive noise from vehicles that have altered their vehicle mufflers and exhaust systems to hinder the ability of mufflers to operate properly and reduce the noise from gasoline engines. Section 27151 of the California Vehicle Code states that no person shall modify the exhaust system of a motor in a manner which will amplify or increase the noise emitted by the motor in excess of a sound level of 95 decibels, which is standard established by the Society of Automotive Engineers. As a result of this directive, I have made contact with Sergeant Ricky Osborne and let him know that excessive muffler and exhaust system noise is a concern for our residents, and he passed it along to his deputies to be on the lookout for vehicles with modified exhaust systems. Sergeant Osborne will keep me updated as to the number of citations that are issued for modified exhaust systems, and I will pass that information along to our city manager so that he can inform City Council. Staff requests that that council receive and file this report, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions on this report? Okay, we will receive and file that report. Thank you kindly. Item 7, update on fireworks reporting.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is just a quick update on the fireworks reporting and where we're at. And just to kind of give some background info on it, per the Lawndale code, we can issue a maximum of 8 permits per calendar year. Currently, we have 6. And there's some reporting that's due by September 1st. The first report is due, which shows kind of their sales numbers from each organization. All 6 have turned those in, and we are currently in the process of reviewing. There's a second part to the reports that are due. There's an expenditure report. Basically, that's to make sure that they've complied with the Lawndale code, that 25% of their net revenue is spent on youth organizations, and another 25% on general other charitable organizations within the city. So once we get those are due November 30th. So once we get those, we'll go through those, review those, and then once we have all of that, it's up to per the code, the city manager can choose up to 2, a minimum of 2, to do a full audit on. So we'll go through that, audit the ones that he's selected, and once we get all that information documented, our reports ready, we'll come back and kind of give you guys our recommendations based on the code. And that's really it for right now. All 6, currently we do have all the reports, the first part of the report at least, and we're in process of reviewing those.
Okay, thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Let's hear some public comments. Yes, sir.
The staff report from the finance director provides a clear and concise summary of the financial reporting requirements of those groups that sold fireworks this July 4th. This summary is language from the municipal code that has been on the books for at least the 10 years that I've been attending council meetings. Based on past comments from this body, it appears that some of the council has either never read it or have not understood it, while continuing to support these groups regardless of their adherence to the law. It is clear from this report that noncompliance with these requirements precludes an organization from fireworks sales in subsequent years. This simply means that if you fail the requirements, you are not eligible. The report clearly states that failing any noncompliance or audit failures will result in subsequent permit applications being denied and the organization barred for 5 years. Last year, due to my inquiries, it was discovered that audits had not been conducted for several years. This led to all 6 organizations selling fireworks being audited and finding that 4 failed. This meant that thousands of dollars meant to benefit the youth in the community were not dispersed according to the municipal code. The council felt this failure to comply was acceptable and allowed these groups to continue without any repercussions. Was there ever any follow-up with these organizations on how any remaining funds were spent? One organization only reported spending $50 out of thousands received. How were the remaining funds spent? Did anyone even check? The staff report indicates that a minimum of 2 organizations will be selected to be audited. Based on last year's fiasco, all organizations should be audited. I will be requesting these documents once again to review the expenditures and expect the council to enforce the municipal code and not look the other way again. What steps have been taken to ensure the organizations spend the money properly this year? Has the city met with all organizations to review proper expenditures? Were the firms that failed even notified they failed the audit and advised how to correct the issues? Perhaps the reporting format for the second financial report should be simplified, as the organizations seem to have difficulty completing it, to show the breakdown to youth groups and to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Any discussion on this motion? You want to discuss it? Yes, ma'am.
I do agree with Randall in auditing all the 6 stands. Since we didn't do it in the past couple of years, I would like to see it, all 6 organizations.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just agree with the point that I think we need to make the process easy for these organizations so that it doesn't take up too much staff time, and also we know that they're complying.
Got it. Anything else?
On your staff report, you have on third paragraph, it says, these all organizations shall be barred from receiving fireworks staff for a period of 5 years. And that is 8.12.050C7A. Then move down to section A, 12.050C7C. Together 5 years. So is that going to be concurring, 5 years and 5 years, that means 10 years?
I'm not sure about that, how that would.
Mayor and council, we'll have to look into that and get back to you on that. When we bring the second part of the fireworks report, we can get back to you at that point.
Yeah, on the face of it, I would say, and this is looking at the report, not at the code itself, subdivision A deals with if you're failing to submit or failing to provide the documents. Subdivision C says that you either aren't using the sale proceeds correctly or you don't have the membership requirements. I think you're going to wind up with a cap of 5 years because if somebody's provided the documents, okay, that's when we find out, did you use the sales proceeds correctly and do you have the right membership requirements? If you haven't provided that information, then you trigger the subdivision A. So I don't see us going 10 years, but I will look at the code, and if 10 years is an option for the council, we'll present it to you as an option.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'd bring that at the second part of the staff report for the second part of the reporting.
So we're going to make sure that all the vendors have the sales correctly, as well as the membership requirement. Right.
So I just want, so the council is aware too, we have a meeting in December where we sit down with all the fireworks folks. We go over all of these details. They get the application, we work with them. I know Josh has been working with our fireworks since the audit last year, making sure we get everything in, but we'll definitely sit down with them again and go over all the details like Councilwoman Suarez brought up. You're just making sure that the applications are clear, they understand the accounting. We've already had one application late for reporting, they didn't miss the deadline, so, but they did finally get it into us due to a sickness. So there are some folks that, even now still have not met some of the requirements.
Okay. What is the pleasure of this body concerning item 7?
There's no recommendation, Mayor, just.
There's no recommendation, okay.
Was a report.
Recommend
Receive
that
and
we
file.
receive and file.
Yes.
Receive and file, right? Okay, that would be the order. Okay. Item 8, concerning the American Rescue Plan Act funds, use update.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. So this is an update on the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So just quick updates, a little bit of background behind it. The city was allocated a total of $7,748,138 from the federal ARPA funds. We have received that full amount. The first part came in July of 2021, and the second one just came this last July. So basically, there are 4 categories where this money can be spent. Number 1 is to respond to public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small business, and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. Number 2 is to respond to workers performing essential work during COVID-19 public health emergency by providing pay to eligible workers. Number 3 is for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to COVID-19 public health emergency relative to revenue collected in the most current full fiscal year. And the 4th one is to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. I just want to kind of point out that all these 4, the way they're written, the definitions are very vague, and it's very open to what it can be used for. So this was the interim rule that came out in May of 21. In January of 2022, they issued the final rule, which is the final, which is the rules that should be followed. And there was a slight adjustment to, or an amendment to the revenue loss category. So the final rule offers a standard allowance for revenue loss of up to $10 million. So since we received less than that, we are allowed to claim the full 7.7 million as a standard allowance under revenue loss. And that, by doing that, which we did back in, the deadline for that was April 30th, and we did do that. We filed that, we claimed the standard allowance. And by doing that, we don't have to go through the tedious calculation of how much the city actually lost as revenue loss. And so therefore, we can use that full 7.7 million as government, for government services. And their definition of government services is not necessarily defined. There are some items in there I'm going to go through right now. So recipients that select the standard allowance may use the amount for government services. Government services can include, but are not limited to, maintenance or pay-go funded building of infrastructure, including roads, modernization of cybersecurity, including hardware, software, and protection of critical infrastructure, health services, environmental remediation, school or educational services, and the provision of police, fire, and other public safety services. So the Treasury has acknowledged that this list is non-exhaustive. It's just a kind of general idea of what city governments provide as a service to the residents and to the city. So there's more than that, but these are the general. So by us electing that, we have full, we can use that full 7.7 million on government services. So the timing, as far as the timing of when this can be used, so this started March 3rd, 2021. We can use these funds, and it needs to be obligated by December 31, 2024, and fully spent by December 31, 2026. So staff is looking for some guidance from council on how to spend these funds. In the 2021 budget, the one we just completed, the current fiscal year we're in, we have 132,000 budgeted to upgrade the audio video equipment in the council chambers, so that's an allowable use. Also, some other items that have kind of come up recently are vehicles for municipal services department, and they'd be using it to patrol the city, citations, homeless relocation services, so that would all fall under government services. Also, Public Works needs some vehicles, I think dump truck and some other vehicles. So those again fall under services because they go around patrolling, repair, maintenance, those kinds of items, and that all falls under general services to the city. And there's some other repairs at Public Works yards as far as the gate, fence repairs. There's also the community center has a gate that needs some repairs, as well as the sheriff's station. So as far as repairs, that would all fall under basically public safety. So that again would be allowed as allowable expenditures.
Yeah.
So I'm available to answer any questions if you that you guys would have.
Okay, thank you for that report. We do have a few questions. Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman Gorman.
My question would be if we were to consider these, like, for example, license plate readers, could that also be used out of this budget?
I believe that could possibly be used because it'd be basically providing a service for the city. The definition is very broad as to what's government services, and again, it's not really defined. They've left it fairly wide open.
That's it from Councilwoman Suarez.
This might be one of your questions, because we did discuss in our Teen Center subcommittee if these ARPA funds could be used towards the building. So I don't know, I don't think we got a definitive response because of the vague qualifications, but we wanted to check if that could also be used towards that.
Yeah, we could look into that. There's really not very many items that are excluded. It just, if it's going to be funded by different funding sources, there might be some restrictions there. And also if there's any debt involved. They don't want this money to be used to go towards paying off any debts.
Yeah.
So we can definitely kind of look into that a little more, so we can find out.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, let's look into that. Councilwoman Cuevas.
Have we repaired the HVAC in the community center? I know we fixed something, but we were looking into possibly replacing that
Council
system.
direction was to replace the whole system.
So it was replaced?
No, it's still being, we need to look into that, do an RFP
Could
for
we
that.
use these funds for that?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely could. We already have some of the items he brought up are already budgeted too for this fiscal year.
Okay, also, I personally would like to see some of the funds to go into those families that are about to be homeless in the community, because that's basically what the original funds were for, was to help the community with needs. That was my understanding. I might be wrong, but a portion of that maybe put a certain amount where they could apply for those minimum wage and prove that they are in need for those funds. And then the other thing I would like to see is get Public Works some new trucks. I got to see them the other day. If we want to beautify the city, we need them to have the proper equipment. We cannot expect them to drive around the city and not have the proper equipment.
Mayor and council, we are meeting with the subcommittee, budget subcommittee. The dump truck that's in question, it expires. This is the problem with buying these green vehicles. We cannot replace those tanks. So the dump truck, even though it runs pretty decently, it's out in June, it expires. We cannot replace the gas tank. So we'll have to buy a new vehicle there. There's also a need for another vehicle for a Public Works truck as well as for MSD. They could use some trucks for homeless services, outreach. Mr. Reyes, unfortunately, during the times of outreach when we have to pick stuff up, what happens is he has to call Public Works, and sometimes if they don't arrive on time, the stuff gets picked back up or ends up back on the street. So it creates a deficiency in services. So we're looking at maybe a smaller truck for MSD. And then I'm understanding that some of our enforcement vehicles are starting to go down and get worn and torn a lot too, is our parking enforcement. So we are looking at bringing those items. Some of the other items that our finance director brought up, they're already covered in the budget with the exception of the teen center. I think that, from hearing from council, to maybe apply some of those funds that we can look at that. And I have to double check on the HVAC. I thought Julian had put that in there, but I know the whole system needs to be replaced. That's what the council direction was, so we can definitely look at that.
Yeah. And I would like to see, as part of the funding to be spent, some kind of way on the police, public safety. In particular, I don't know if what that would look like, if that would look like an additional, more patrols. Certainly, we have a need for graffiti abatement. More graffiti abatement, and that would definitely fall under public safety. And the councilwoman mentioned the homeless. I too would like to see funds for the homeless services. I don't know if we can couple it with, although, because it's not under this category, I underlined it, said including assistance to households. Now, that's not in the category of government services, But does that mean that we have to stick to what's under the definition of government services, or can we jump to this item 1 that includes assisting?
So part
the
of this whole
households?
ARPA funds was really to offset the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So yes, that could be used for that.
Because I think, and you brought up a great point, I think the first order of business should be items of concern that was affected by COVID. And of course, if we have some satisfy that, then it could be applied to things that didn't directly affect COVID, because I think that was the intent of it, like you were saying. And certainly assisting to households were definitely affected by COVID. Public safety was definitely affected by COVID, because we saw when people didn't have anything else to do, they took to the streets and did a lot of graffiti and had to do a lot of graffiti abatement and things of that nature. In addition to public safety concerns, and of course the homeless and outreach. Those would be my suggestions, that we stick to as much as possible services that's directly affected by COVID. And then we can put some on the youth center in your HVAC. Right?
No, we need the
Right.
HVAC
I'm just
because
kidding. You
if
need
we
an
want
HVAC.
people to use a community center, we need to have an HVAC
Right.
in.
But didn't we didn't budget for the
No, we
the whole
didn't, we
thing?
didn't, because we put a Band-Aid on the bleeding arteries, what
Yeah,
we did.
because
But council
you-
direction
you
was
pushed it,
to
yeah.
replace it eventually. As you all know,
And how long that's gonna
Mike's
last?
here, they undersized that system for that size building, so it definitely needs to be replaced before it really goes down and we can't fix it.
How long we think that's gonna last? How it is now, I mean, the fix.
We're thinking another
Like
year
10
or so,
years?
but we probably need to get it replaced.
Oh, you said it.
We need to do an RFP and put it out there, and I'll talk to Ahmad about that, because that's a huge system to come out, and it's gonna take a lot of work to replace it.
Okay. Well, some,
Almost like
Yeah.
the city hall one, where we had to rebuild the whole system.
okay.
I think we need to do
Well,
it
some for the HVAC, yeah.
before, the Band-Aid
Yeah.
peels off.
Yeah,
which-
I agree.
Definitely.
I thought you were gonna say 10
Ho-
years.
Hopefully before summer, because if next summer is the same as this one, they're really gonna need that system.
Yes. I talked to Ahmad, he already sent out a couple of RFPs now, he's filling in, taking over Julian's real well. So, we'll ask him to send out another one on this, because I know that's a big deal. I know Mike is worried about the system over there, how long it's gonna last.
And
Okay.
maybe if you could set up a meeting with our, what do we call it? The homeless committee. It has a
Homeless Solutions.
homeless solution committee, and see what we could put together.
Does that relate to the HVAC?
No, that's
Oh,
for
yeah.
for the other funds.
Well, we have the budget subcommittee first, or did you wanna, because we have that set up first.
It would be nice for the subcommittee to put something together and present it to the budget subcommittee.
Okay.
That's what I think, if that could be put.
I just had another idea in regards to this money. I'll talk more about it later, but this weekend I attended a seminar that was on our emergency operating system, that through contract cities, is ours up to date? And my suggestion too is that in some of that money, we start looking at updating and preparing our community for something of an emergency. That's it.
All righty. Yeah, I think we're running a deficit now. Right? Okay.
We might have to sell your truck, Robert.
Very good.
We're gonna be driving your truck.
Yeah. My junk on car. Okay. All right, so that's, we'll receive and file that report, and we gave some direction. Next item is the third amendment to the contract services agreement and stack augmentation. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Ahmad Ansari, Interim Public Works Director. Item 9 has to do with the third amendment for staff augmentation done in Engineering Division. A little bit of background as presented in your staff report. In May and June of this year, 2 in-house staff members, associate engineer and assistant engineer, resigned. So there were vacancies in that department. And later on in May, there were 8 firms, engineering firms, that were solicited to provide proposals, to keep going, with the continuity of the projects, CIP projects, and other tasks in engineering. 3 firms submitted proposals, and WG Zimmerman Engineering was selected. They started on May 16th at $14,400 original contract. Due to continuation of vacancies and the need for coordinating the projects, utility agencies, and other tasks in engineering, there were 2 amendments. Amendment 1 on June 6th, and second amendment on July 18th. And one was for $38,400. The other one was for $72,000, and they were both awarded by the City Council. Life continued with the projects. There were progress made on certain projects. I came on board myself on August 23rd as the interim Public Works Director, as the Public Works Director and City Engineer resigned. The recent good news is that we have had interviews with good candidates for Assistant Engineer and Associate Engineer. In fact, the final interview was conducted by the City Manager and myself on September 21st. We have liked 2 candidates, potentially, one for Assistant and one for Associate Engineer. And, but in the meantime, by the time, they're brought on board, the continuity of the projects need to continue. So we are recommending that the City Council would consider and approve the amendment number 3 to WG Zimmerman Engineering through, conservatively, through end of November, with the staff, the augmented staff, for $40,560. One important note is that after evaluating the engineering division, and in the interest of saving a few bucks for the city and in the Public Works Department, I recommend that instead of 2 staff members that WG Zimmerman has so far provided to the division, we only keep 1. So there is 1 staff member at assistant engineer level that would be working closely with myself, keeping things going until hopefully in November time, or maybe sooner, we get the assistant engineer and associate engineer as in-house staff brought on board. In your staff report, we were talking about the fiscal impact. Primarily, there are several sources of salary and benefit savings that we are allocating and utilizing for this staff augmentation, this recommendation. So with that, I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that report. Are there any questions on the report from the,
I have one, Robert.
any questions?
This is for our city manager. Is this going to be the last one? Because in just over 6 months, we paid over $100,000.
Yeah, yes, hopefully, we're hopeful that we get the new staff members onboarded.
Okay.
Our new associate engineer, I'm happy to report, he's gonna have 17+ years' experience. We're taking him from adjacent cities, so I'm very happy. We have a highly experienced person coming on and someone for the assistant level as well, some good experience. So Ahmad helped me pick them. We picked them out. We hope they're going to be a good fit. Hopefully this will be the last amendment to this. It definitely high burn rate on the costs, but we're hopeful that the new folks get started, and then Zimmerman's folks can just still transition the new staff into the projects. There's quite a bit. When the former public works director left, we had a lot of projects in the air, so we have to keep them going. I'm over there when Ahmad's not there, usually on Mondays and Thursdays, and he's there Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're just keeping things going. Aside from the operations, stuff that goes on all day, graffiti abatement, road patches, all the things, bulky items, that's the big thing. I drive around and look for those things too, because we get a lot of calls on that stuff, so.
Quick question. The 40,000, is that for one person, or are you counting both of them?
No, only one. What it amounts to approximately, if I'm not mistaken, a little over 300 hours we're projecting from September 22nd to end of November 30th. Only one person, and it's roughly between 32 to 36 hours a week. That individual is full-time, but the other individual that we're eliminating was part-time associate.
If the two candidates get hired, you think they'll be ready before November? Let's say they're ready by the end of October, and we could let go of the other?
Ahmad's gonna work with them and onboard them and get them going.
Yeah.
Like I said, the one associate's pretty well experienced. Ahmad's gonna guide them and get them onboarded and get going.
I'm very optimistic that under my own direction, we would make the training and passing on the torch very quickly. I'm hoping within a week to 2 weeks, we could learn, where the ropes are and, everything else, and, get the ball rolling. Like I said, if the two in-house staff people are brought on board, say, early November, we might even be able to terminate the staff augmentation prior to end of November, what we are projecting in the staff report.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, thank you for that presentation and report. What is the pleasure of this body concerning the staff recommendation to make this amendment?
I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Kearney that we accept the staff recommendation to amend this contract, and by Kearney and seconded by Suarez. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would the council please vote?
For item number 9, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, madam. Next item is city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be quick. I attended the American Planning Association Sunday and half day today, so it was very interesting. All the topics and many of the classes, seminars. Ms. Chavez is there and Mr. Hernandez as well. I have to keep an eye on them. But a lot of the topics were about housing. Every single seminar is all about housing. I did touch base and just let the council know, and I talked to Rayla today. I bent the ear of HCD. I talked to them. I talked to our friends at SCAGs. I mentioned I mentioned the 3,000 plus units approximately. And I spoke to Caltrans. I mentioned that they may come down. I talked to the headquarters. So I said they wanted to do some kind of survey where they'd come in and I said, oh yeah, I want to talk to them about the homeless encampments along the 405. They said they'd be interested in doing some surveys. They go around the headquarters, and they go around. So hopefully, I got out there and, they knew who Lawndale was at the APA. So everybody was wondering why I was still there as city manager, but I have to get certification maintenance units for my AACP certification. But I cut it short, so it was really fun, and glad to see everybody. And Ms. Chavez is still there with Mr. Hernandez.
Wait a minute, is this another certificate to put on the wall?
On your wall? No, I already have that, Mayor. I have to maintain it.
Oh, I have to
like
maintain
the attorney,
it.
he has to go in.
Okay.
He has to go and do his certification.
Okay.
So I had to go to on Sunday and Monday. But it was fun. We saw a lot of cities there, and it was interesting. But again, the main topics were housing. That was the number one. And then I did ask Matt. I did mention to Caltrans. How come are they considering expanding the freeways, and also maybe it'd be a better idea to put the mass transit with the freeways so they don't impact the communities. So I did bring that up.
Imagine that. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, let's hear from the council. Anything Pat Kearney wants to share?
Okay. I attended 2 events. One event on the 21st of September, I attended the Lobby Trust and Oversight Committee. We had 3 major payouts because of sheriff involvement in accidents, over $50 million. So I'm going to recommend the next meeting that before we do our budget for the sheriffs, if these still keep happening, we reduce our budget to them by 10%. Because pretty soon we won't be insurable. And that fund is going to disappear. And the second one, I attended the Central High School Community Partners Breakfast. And their expo is very good. Robert was supposed to be there, but he didn't show up. So I said I was Robert.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
And with that, I'll pass it on.
I'm sure they didn't notice.
No.
Right, okay. Councilwoman Suarez.
Okay, so I have two. I did attend on September 22nd, the South Bay City's Council of Government Board of Directors meeting, business as usual. And then I also attended on the mayor's behalf, the second district mayoral convening for Supervisor Holly Mitchell. And so there are some things, a lot of the cities under that jurisdiction attended, and it was very interesting to hear their different points of view, what's going on. A lot of talk about deteriorating infrastructure for them, and that's one of the things they're facing. Of course, the topic of homelessness came up and the resources available, which I do want to make sure our subcommittee, homeless solutions subcommittee meets, because City of Hawthorne and City of Carson are getting their homeless coordinator funded through Measure H, which the county helped facilitated. And from what I've had a follow-up conversation, and they did mention that we would need to complete a homeless plan. I'm not sure of the criteria, so I'm suggesting that our subcommittee meet so we can talk about that, because if we can get funds and not completely go into ARPA, it's also nice to have additional funds for that. And then those were the main points with regards to that I did want to bring up. Let me see, I have my notes from there. And then the other thing I did want to ask for an update a while back, there was the sales tax measure, and there was supposed to be a community oversight. I think it was a oversight committee, so I just want to get an update on how that's going. And with that, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cuevas.
As you can see,
Is
I
your-
didn't bring
is
my
your-
notepad
was about to
with
say,
me
is
because
your-
I came from work.
Okay.
So I have nothing today.
What?
Thank you. I'm passing
So
it on.
what are you saying? We're going to get out before 10?
There you go.
Okay.
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 Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Wow, now I'm under the gun to be quick. On the 29th, I attended a Zoom call with the Deputy Transportation representative, and her name was Madeline Moore, and she is Sheila Coons from Metro's deputy. In the morning, she very much understood the issues with Lawndale and our concerns about Metro. I felt it was a very positive meeting between me and her. She likened us to one of the cities in her own district, and I felt that Sheila will be hearing 100% of what Lawndale's fears, concerns, and the goals that we have as far as dealing with Metro. And then also that same afternoon, the mayor and I both attended with the assistance of Hilda Solis, Mr. Martin Reyes, and Ben Feldman. And I think that we did a pretty good job also explaining in that one Lawndale's, again, stance on our Metro concerns. And I feel like on those two, we really, actually all three of them, if we needed to, we could call upon them again. On Friday the 30th, I got the pleasure of going up to Lake Arrowhead for the annual Fall Contract Cities Association Learning Weekend. And like I stated earlier, it was all on emergencies, operating services, and where do we stand? And what a lot of the cities found is during the pandemic, they kind of all fell behind. And so this was kind of a push to start asking those questions and start seeing where we are as far as planning for those emergencies. So I brought back an awful lot of information that I'm going to hand to Sean. So if any of you are interested in seeing the handouts or anything from that event. And while I was there, and by the way, Mayor,
Yes,
I ate
ma'am.
a lot of things that tasted like chicken.
What, was that chicken?
You don't know if it was
Could have been
chicken.
chicken.
It could have been chicken, right?
Okay, while I was there. The best news that came out of it, or something that I'm excited about, is I was able to talk to Janice Hahn. And I asked her directly to be on that call. Don't just send me to the deputy. But I also wanted her to be on call. And she's committed to me that she will meet with Robert and I, again, pertaining to. And I tell them, I'm probably not gonna change your vote, but I want you, when you push that button, to know why Lawndale feels this way and what Lawndale's thoughts are, because I'm fearful that the voting members of Metro don't understand why, and they haven't asked us, so that's why we're scheduling these meetings. That's all I have.
Thank you for the report. So, I too attend, as you mentioned, Madam Pro Tem, the Caltrans meeting with the staff, transportation staff from Supervisor Hilda Solis. She's always been a champion of underserved communities, and so it was good to speak with her staff concerning our concerns with the Metro project. And I do feel that we were definitely heard by her staff, and that they will definitely convey the information to the supervisor slash a Metro board member. One of the reasons why we're meeting particularly with members of Metro that's not our representatives, because we want to make sure that we press upon Metro on our concerns with the C line extension, particularly the abatements and the mitigation measures that we want to make sure that's employed, because we do know they're going to have the project, we just don't know exactly which alternative they're going to adopt. But should they adopt Condon, we have some requests, strong demands, I should say, probably more than requests, strong demands. If they go down Hawthorne Boulevards, we have some equally strong demands as well, and we want to make sure that those were conveyed to the board members, because we don't get to see them, all the time, as we have the opportunity to see our board members. So we're making the rounds, all the members of the Metro boards, and we've concluded a few of them so far, but we're making good progress. So that's why we're doing those meetings. So I want to thank Hilda Solis for her staff. Just a point of clarification, I want to thank Councilwoman Bernadette Flores for attending the meeting with the mayor's meeting with Holly Mitchell, our supervisor, who's doing a great job on representing us. I was not playing hooky. I do believe it's always advantageous to give your colleagues a chance to get in on the action, right? And to grow. And that meeting is, we want to keep those meetings down to a few people so that they're very productive, right? And so I knew the homeless issues would be coming up, and Ms. Suarez as well as Ms. Cuevas is on our homeless subcommittee. And so I thought it was important that she attend the meeting so that her voice is heard and our voices are heard through her. So thank you for attending that meeting, Councilwoman.
They didn't notice the difference.
They didn't notice the difference? Okay. Next, I want to know if, and I haven't been on the website lately, so maybe this is already on the website, our road repair schedule as well as tree trimming schedule, especially the tree trimming schedules. People are kind of interested to know when we're going to get around to their trees. People do understand that we trim trees. We don't trim them every year. And so it's kind of hard to keep a track since you don't, trim them every year. And so it would be great to have that readily available to the public so they can know when to expect their trees to be trimmed. Obviously, if there's an emergency or there's a dead tree or what have you, we'll give those some attention, notwithstanding the schedule. So if we can take a look at that, I would definitely appreciate that, Mr. City Manager. And with that, since you didn't have an hour's worth of things to do, I got 5 more.
I have a quick question.
I got 5 more of these.
About your tree trimming.
No, I'm fine.
How often do we trim our trees? Are we like City of LA that we wait 10 years to get to the same spot? Do we know?
No, from my understanding from staff, working with staff, that they have an annual tree schedule. And like our streets, as we do with the different funds, yeah, but I can definitely make sure that the tree schedule and the street schedule are put up on the website.
And if a citizen feels that the sidewalk tree is overgrowing and calls the city, do we tell them, wait until it's your turn, or do we?
The city will look at it if it's in need of some
It depends.
emergency, it's overhanging, it's creating some safety issue. A couple weeks ago, we had a tree fall over, so I had to have staff out there on a Friday night. We had a power pole down, but also a tree, and they went right over there to, take care of the tree and then
Yeah.
chop the rest of it because it was a safety issue.
Yeah.
So
So-
it just depends on the situation, but the public works staff need to go out there and look at it.
So we don't tell the citizen, do it yourself?
Not that, if it's on their property, but if it's in the
No,
public
on the
right of way.
sidewalk.
No, it's in
Okay.
the public right of way.
I just don't want to fall in the same way as City of LA that tells you you could get a free permit and you need to trim it yourself.
I don't have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure that we trim the trees that are our trees.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have. Let's see, what else we have on the calendar? I think that's it, right? Okay. Well, with that, we have exhausted our agenda. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the city council will be held at 6:30 PM on Monday, October 17th. In these here council chambers. It is now 8:20. This meeting is adjourned.